We are homesteading here in Australia on the edge of the Aussie bush, and yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful place to live. We've got one foot kind of in two worlds. We've both got our kind of professional and kid commitments. Both of us work full time. But then we also have a foot in this life, which is all of those things that we kind of value and love. You know, we love being in nature. We love being able to grow our own food. We love being able to eat things where we know exactly where it's come from. We love being able to preserve things up so that we've got our own resources when they're out of season, and to have our livestock to be able to interact with, to be able to go and get a fresh egg. Like, all of these things are just kind of super, super special to us. Cooking with the sun or producing our own energy with the biogas so that we're kind of minimising our footprint on the world. Like, this is the life that we absolutely love. I'm Rachel.
I'm Russell.
And we both live with our kids on 5 acres up here in the Dandenong Ranges in Victoria in Australia. We moved to the property about 15 years ago now.
See, when we first moved in here, the house had been neglected and the property had been neglected. There was no garden.
There was a lot of drainage issues, lots of weeds everywhere. One of the very first things that we did was putting in some fencing.
90% of the fencing's all recycled from construction jobs, which was getting thrown out. So yeah, we got the fencing up pretty quick, didn't we?
Yeah, and that was really important because we keep Wiltshire horns, and we've had those pretty much since the first days that we moved into this place. And a big part of that at the start was really about keeping the grass down and fire prevention.
We're on a slope, you can't use a machine. It's not like I could get a tractor to cut the grass. So yeah, we got the sheep.
The slope has been interesting to work with, hasn't it?
Yeah, it hasn't been easy. We used an excavator and we actually flattened the garden beds out, so we're not standing on the side of a hill. And we used recycled timber to make all the garden beds.
Yep.
And terraced them around the place. We decided to start planting, and at the start we didn't really have a plan. So after a few years we learned a few lessons about a bit more of a structure and planning.
Around the house, we've got a lot of the main kind of plantings, and we've got different zones. Around the front, we've got a edibles garden, and in the edibles garden, there's a lot of trees, and then there's an understory with a few Australian natives as well, things like the medium berries and blueberries and stuff like that out there. And then we've got the bigger canopy with things like the fig tree and a lot of the fruit trees. And then we've got the orchard on the side here. When we put that in, like, we were probably going for like kind of like that food garden type aesthetic where there's lots of kind of different trees interplanted. And in practice up here in the hills, that doesn't really work that well. That's actually probably one of the bigger regrets that I have for this place, because essentially it's like a big buffet, because we have massive bird pressure up here. We get the bats.
We've got possums. At night you hear the possums running around.
We're very good at feeding the local wildlife around here, but you know, we do want to make sure that we get a bit of a feed for ourselves as well. So each year we normally pick a couple of trees, we put some nets over those specific trees, and it's really only from those trees that we actually manage to get some fruit. So yeah, when I look back, I kind of think it would have been pretty cool if we had have planted a little bit differently, just so that we could have some permanent structures to be able to readily keep a feed for ourselves as well. The greenhouse is one of the most important things we have for growing here. Because we're in the ranges, you do actually get really cold periods in the winter, and without having the greenhouse we wouldn't be able to overwinter things like the capsicums and the chilies, and I mean, you've even got a pineapple plant going in there at the moment.
Pineapple, curry leaf, even the sweet potato.
Yep, and we're even getting dragon fruit to go. The sweet potato we've been growing in there for quite a few years now. We've got a kind of like a 1 by 1 metre area in the greenhouse, and by having it in the greenhouse you can just have it go all the time, and yeah, we always get a bit of a harvest. We can pretty much go shopping in the garden when we need to get some stuff for dinner, can't we, guys?
Yep.
And we're going to go get a few goodies together now. Do you want to go get some beans, and do you want to grab that one there, and do you want to grab some of these tomatoes? You getting a few good ones?
Yeah, some really red and ripe ones.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Have you had a sneaky taste?
3, actually.
So what are you going to grab?
Some beans.
Yeah?
Just look under leaves and you'll find big batches. I did very well. I think I've picked a whole bowl full. This might be enough for a few dinners. I've been looking through the cucumber patch and I've found these 2 cucumbers so far. They look really good.
You want to pick them?
Yeah.
Oh, that looks good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is.
We get a bit of competition for our apples around here.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there is a net on this one. This is the only apple tree we actually put a net on this year. It's also the only apple tree we've actually got any apples off of, even though we've got about half a dozen trees. That's a good looking basket.
Mm-hmm. Lots of fruits and veg in there.
So on the property, we do like to grow lots of different fruits and vegetables. We also have our livestock as well, and we have the eggs from the chickens. So amongst all of that, that provides lots of goodies to go into the kitchen. Russ is the key chef at our house.
We're not totally self-sufficient off our own means, but every meal we try and incorporate as much food from our own gardens.
So we do like to preserve up a lot of what we grow here. I suppose that's one of the reasons I got into a lot of the preserving, because we did find that there was this real abundance of produce at certain times of the year, and then other times of the year things are really lean. So it meant that we could kind of extend the harvest and have things when they're out of season. So I use 3 different canning methods. I do pressure canning, I also do water bath, and also steam canning as well. We also have a couple of dehydrators, so I've got a big Excalibur that we use and also a smaller Easy Dry. So we do lots of dehydrated, like particularly snacks and dried fruits and stuff like that from the fruit trees. We've also got the smoker, and hubby does the jerkies and things like that.
Jerky, yep.
So we do a lot of just putting meat in particular in the freezer. There's also a lot of like vegetables that I would prefer to freeze and use, things like zucchini. I prefer just to grate that, put it in the freezer and use that in winter stews rather than trying to can that up or dehydrate that. Also things like beans, again, I prefer to put that in the freezer than to can up beans. Obviously we do lots of jams and jellies and relishes and stuff like that as well. Lots of tomato products and fermenting, can't forget fermenting. So love fermenting things. Things like kimchis and sauerkrauts, just random vegetables that can be fermented. We also do fruit wines and things like that. On a typical weekend, there can be lots of things going on, both in the garden and in the kitchen. Yeah, so Ryan's making a bit of apple juice for us. So we're working through a lot of apples at the moment because the apple trees have been producing really, really well. So we're going through a full box today. There's a whole bunch that we've chopped up that are getting juiced. But also, my youngest and I have just put these ones in. So what have we got here?
Oh, well, we're dehydrating some apples.
Yeah,
Every tray has a bunch of apples in them.
it does. So in about probably 8 to 10 hours, they will be yummy, crispy apple chips.
I've got the dehydrated apples from after these completely dehydrate. They're very sweet.
There's a good crunch there too.
Yeah. Do you want one?
So we keep a lot of our stuff in our study because we do have quite a small house. So when we've got overflow of stuff from kind of canning projects, also a lot of our bulk stuff like flour and oats and stuff like that, we keep that in here as well. So the study is also where the chaos of a lot of our preserving gear lives.
G'day, this is our front garden. When we started, this was totally bare, there was nothing here. So we decided that we wanted the fruit trees. We have a cherry tree, one of our plum trees, a quince, blood plum, persimmon apricot, peach trees. Then we have lime and a lemon tree. They are all due to be pruned. This garden bed here was a problem during winter. This is absolutely boggy. It just gets flooded. The water from the hill comes through, seeps through the retaining wall, comes through. and during summer it dries out to be like concrete. So what we've done is we've put the pots, and we're growing pineapple sages, perennial basils, a lot of mint. The mint grows not in the pots but in the ground. Every year it comes back, so that's one of the things it does really well.
Because we are working with such a steep slope, we have to be really creative with the areas that we've kind of planted on. And you kind of see behind me here, we've got these little planter boxes. That's for our grapes, and that's created a bit of a flat area for them to be able to grow. And then behind, what we've done is we've got a bit of a flat area where we've been able to put our greenhouse, and also that's where all of our garden beds for our veggie patches sit. So veggie patches is what we call our kitchen gardens here in Australia. We've got a pretty full-on chicken and quail, and well, it used to be also our duck enclosure as well, that we call Falcatraz, because it's got a lot of defences on it to keep the foxes out. And we wanted to make sure when it was built that the fowl had like really big areas to kind of roam around in. So they've always got lots of nice grass to be able to kind of graze on in there. So each day after school, my eldest is actually the one that does all the fowl chores, don't you?
Yep. Every day I top up the blue container. Like, by just putting it in here.
Yep.
And then I wait for it to fill up.
And that's for the little waterers that are in there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. You can see the quail from this angle.
The eggs taste like chicken eggs, but mini.
I collect the chicken eggs. These are fresh chicken eggs and were probably laid today.
Yep. The sheep that we keep are a breed called Wiltshire Horns. The reason that we keep these guys is because they are self-shedding sheep. And with having a really small flock, so we've only got one ram, we've also got 3 ewes and whatever lambs that we breed up in the season, we didn't want to have to be either learning how to shear or having to pay people to come in to do shearing. So with these guys, they actually rub themselves against the trees and the wool comes off that way. So often when they're shedding, there's little bits of wool all over the place around here. They also eat a lot of things that other types of sheep won't eat. So these guys aren't particularly fussy, and that means they eat a lot of things like the blackberries that can grow up in the bush. And they also eat the onion weed, which was a really prolific weed on this property when we first moved in. And we pretty much don't get onion grass around anymore at all. So these are our bees. We've had our bees now for probably over a decade. The bees have been really beneficial for us for a couple of different things. Of course, they give us absolutely delicious honey, and we do a honey harvest every year or two. The hive that we use is an Aussie hive. There's a little bit of protection because there's that insulation for the bees inside, and I think that helps. It does get really hot here in the summertime. It's also cold up here in the ranges in that winter time as well. The other reason that they have been wonderful for us on this property is for pollination. With having so many fruit trees and growing veggies and stuff like that, you want to make sure that there is really good pollination, and we definitely never have a problem with pollination on this property. So in terms of energy, we do try to produce and use as much of our own energy as we can. We do have solar on the house. We've had that solar system on the house again since pretty early days of being here. It is a smaller system, so it is only a 2 kilowatt system, but still it produces a decent amount of electricity to kind of contribute to what we use here on the property, because we are quite mindful about what we use.
Our hot water system is designed to heat from the solar, so it heats up during the daytime.
We don't use a lot of heaters and air conditioners and stuff like that for the most part, and our wood fire is the primary way that we heat our house. And the cool thing about the wood fire is not only does it kind of heat the house and, you know, gives a pretty nice ambience as well, but we cook on top of that fire as well during the winter time.
Even boiling the kettle.
Yeah.
We, in the morning, first person up puts the kettle on top, stokes the fire, and pretty quickly the water's hot enough for coffee. One good thing about this property is we do harvest our own wood, and we burn a lot of wood during winter. We totally reliant on our wood fire.
In the summertime, we switch to, we've got a biogas system. Down here we have our biogas system, and essentially we've got the bag down here because this is one of the sunnier areas on the property for us to put it. One of the things that helps the biogas to work well is for it to be in a spot where it's going to get maximum warmth, and sun really helps with that. So this spot here is kind of perfect for that. All we do is we come down here, we feed it into this area here, and that's where all the organic waste goes in. And then over the back here, we get liquid fertilizer. It's not a lot in there at the moment because I emptied that out yesterday. But the other cool thing is this bag here fills up with gas, and then the gas goes to a stove up the top, and we can use essentially free gas from something that was going to be waste. And it's just this complete cycle. And yeah, I think that's pretty cool. The other way that we cook in the summertime is also with solar. So we've got some solar cookers. One is a parabolic, which is basically one where it concentrates all the sunlight to a certain point and it gets hot enough that you can actually fry on top of that one. And the other one that I use is a solar oven. And the oven allows us to do baking, so you can, bake cakes and even roasting meats and things like that.
We have a 44,000 litre water tank that's piped from the roof. Up here in the Daniels we get, what is the annual rainfall for up here?
Oh, a lot.
We get a lot of water, so our water tank very rarely is empty, but we are hooked up to mains water, but that's only hooked up to the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
Everything else in our house, the toilet, the showers, the laundry, even watering the garden, all comes from our water tank.
That's also a reserve for us during the fire season.
We're in one of the most fire-prone areas in the world, so we have to take that into consideration. So we have 2 fire pumps, and with that I've got sprinklers for the roof, sprinklers for the front, and sprinklers for the back here, plus I have 2 fire hoses.
One of the cool things about living on this property and being right on the edge of the bush like this is that there is a lot of Aussie wildlife that we also share the property with. And what did you just spot here?
There's a echidna.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on the move.
He is on the move. So this one here, it's one of our Aussie echidnas. They kind of forage around with their noses and eat a lot of the bugs and ants. I think that's what he's trying to do, is have a bit of a feed at the moment.
The magic about this place is, for us, it's still close enough for us to work, and if we need to go to the shops, do things like that, but we feel this property gives us a bit of a country lifestyle.
Because we've been here quite a few years now and done a lot of things, we've also done a lot of experimenting, and we've stuffed things up along the way and learned things along the way. And we have got to a point where we do hold a little bit of knowledge on how to do some things. And so it was about 18 months ago that we started the Bush Edge Homesteading Australia YouTube channel. The content's not really about us and kind of our day-to-day lives. It's about how to go about doing a thing. And it's a bit more of an instructional to kind of help people out.
So yeah, we do it because we just want to be connected to our food. And one of the greatest things we love seeing is the children going into the gardens and picking the food and eating it straight away. If we didn't have full-time jobs and we were doing it here, we could probably grow enough to be totally self-sufficient.
Yeah.
I don't think we would have a problem with that. But at the moment, every meal, we've got something from the garden. So for us, that's a main goal.
I'm super glad that we ended up finding this place and that this is where we've been now for the last 15 years, because it has kind of meant we've had this spot to get away from all those different kind of pressures of day-to-day life and come here at the end of the day and just have a bit of a refuge, a place that you can just be in the garden and just do those things that give us joy.
Subscribe to Exploring Alternatives and check out our playlists for more videos like this. you can also follow Rachel and Russell on their YouTube channel at Bush Edge Homesteading Australia. Thanks for watching.